Yes, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the Adapt Performance podcast. So I'm back into the swing of things. Yeah, I said in the last podcast I fell off it a little bit, moving house, just smashing things with Adapt. But I'm on it. Okay, I'm on it. We've got a good string of guests lined up, and I'm going to hit you up with a little bit of an individual podcast on something that I feel will be super important, actually. And I think it'll be, blowing my own trumpet here, but well received, because I feel like this is going to give a lot of people something to think about and hopefully give some good value. And dare I say, maybe even be the most valuable podcast I've done thus far. What's been going on? So I've just spent this is the thing, right? I'm not a software engineer. I'm not a sound engineer, and I'm definitely not a tech guy, but trying to find a way of figuring out this podcast was a little bit of an issue today. So I'm trying to get all fancy. I'm trying to use my previous phone as a webcam to my laptop. The reason being that my laptop webcam is just pretty shite. It looks very grainy. It's not very good. But also the fact that I feel like my laptop's on the way out. It feels like it's about to take off. It's super, super hot. It's going a bit mental. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like an airplane. So I've abandoned that idea. It's not working. So I've come to my phone. So here we go. Fingers crossed that everything goes well with it, and I'm not just speaking to myself, because that'd be weird. What else been going on? Well, I'll tell you what then. Here's one for you. In the show notes below, sign up to the Adapt newsletter. The reason being, the reason why I'm telling you to do that is I'm being super consistent with this. I'm getting some really, really good feedback in terms of how I am tackling subjects and topics that I don't usually cover on podcast or on social media. And the reason being that social media is just generally one of those things where you've got to capture attention super quick. So if you've got your top on, it's going to be a struggle. If you're not saying anything controversial, it's going to be a struggle. So I'm trying to do most of that kind of deep written format stuff on my newsletter. Okay, so I'll be tackling subjects I don't usually do anywhere else. So sign that. Go do it. Go put your email in. I'll appreciate it. It's not very spammy. Well, it's not spammy at all. Do that for me. Join the crew. So, right, what is the topic then? What am I getting into? So I want to talk about the everyday athlete. Okay, so what I mean by everyday athlete is the average Joe or Jane that is trying to achieve something performance related. Okay, but they work a full-time job. They work a 9 to 5, but they're still trying to accomplish big things in the physical space. Whether it is their sport of choice, whether it is their performance in general. They're just trying to look a little bit better, perform a little bit better, or maybe they are trying to smash it on the rugby field or do something athletic. Okay. And the reason why I'm basing it around this in particular, and why I feel like I've got grounds to speak about this particular topic, is I would say the majority of the people that we work with at Adapt in an online setting, but also face to face, is this person. Okay. They're not professional. They might not even be semi-pro. They're generally your recreational based athletes that are really trying to just perform super well. They love what they do. They love sport. It's a big part of their life, and they get a lot from it. But the other side of that coin is, because they're not professional, they don't have sponsorships, and they don't have all that type of thing, is they are balancing trying to perform at their best whilst working a full-time job. Okay, maybe doing split shift, they're doing super earlys, they're doing super lates, they're on shift work. They get to the gym and they're absolutely shattered. They just can't be asked. They don't know what to do while they're at the gym. They're trying to balance that with a full-time playing schedule. And it's a lot. It's a fuck ton. Okay, there's loads there to consider. I'm going to try and touch on a lot of these things in this podcast today. I've written a few notes. I've been very professional and forward thinking about this. And I'm going to make some assumptions. I'm going to make some generalized sweeping comments, and this might not apply to every person out there, but hopefully you can see that I'm trying to reach as many people as possible with this. Voice went. So the first thing, okay, that I feel like most people are going to struggle with when it comes to being, a 9 to 5 or an everyday athlete is figuring out a scheduling situation that is the most optimal? And I don't use optimal very, very often, the word. I think it has some actual negative connotations to it, because optimal doesn't always really exist. And I think it convinces us that sometimes we're not doing good work if it's not optimal. But I'm going to use that. What is the best schedule for somebody that is an everyday athlete? And the assumption being that recreational sports are probably going to practice twice a week. Okay, you're going to play your actual sport twice a week. Okay, it might be more, might be less, but I'm going to work off twice a week. As a result, because of the nature of the beast, and you might play once a week as well, so 3 days are taken up there. Most of the time, your S&C should be taken up 2 to 4 days a week. You should have 2 to 4 S&C sessions. What goes on in those sessions really depends. However, I do feel like everyday athletes should train full body. Okay, they should do some upper body work, some lower body work, pretty much every session. The nature of it being that some days you may not actually get into the gym. Okay, so let's say you get in, you do your first session of the week. Awesome, smashed it. But if you don't manage to get any more sessions in that week, the beauty of full body is you've still hit full body. Fantastic. You haven't regressed. You haven't taken a step back in any way, shape or form, because you've hit it. If you're somebody that does an upper body, lower body day, okay, that can work if you're super consistent. However, if you don't hit that second, third or fourth session, you've just hit upper or you've just hit lower. So you're leaving gaps there. So I will opt for I will opt for full body most of the time. Okay. And when we do this, I'm trying to train it all. Okay. I'm trying to tick a lot of different boxes from an adaptation standpoint. I want to hit some power, some speed. I want to hit some max strength. I want to hit some hypertrophy. I want to get some individual work for key injury sites that are relative to you as an individual, okay, based on how your body is put together and your injury risk, and the actual sporting side of things. What are the individual aspects of your sport that we really need to tick, okay? It could be neck work if you're a rugby guy. It could be some ankle stability work if you are a gymnast. It could be if you're a runner, we're going to make sure that we get a decent amount of glute work and we tick the box of making sure you've got good core stability so that when you go running, it's not your lower back that feels it. Okay. That would be your opportunity to do a little bit of that stuff. So hope you've got a pen and paper, or at least you are listening intensely. I'm going to give you a twice a week training schedule that I think most people could probably make huge leaps and bounds with. I'm not going to go into the sets and reps, but this is generally how I would go about it. You need to get in. You need to do a warm-up, okay? I would opt for doing a ramp warm-up. A ramp warm-up is basically a raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. It is a way of warming up that ticks a lot of different boxes for us from a movement standpoint, a physiology standpoint. So it gets us warm, it gets that temperature up, it gets us firing on all fronts. In terms of how a ramp warm-up looks, it's 5 to 10 minutes of movement, okay? It's your classic, your squats, your lunges, your Spider-Mans, your 90-90 rotations, your T-spine. We're working there on getting you prepared for the session, but also ticking some of the key restrictions that you might actually have as a person. So for me, I have relatively shit ankles. They're not very flexible. So I do a little bit of work there. I've been doing a little bit more sitting down, a little bit more driving, and a little bit more screen work. I've been, hunched over like a goblin. Over a desk. So I do a lot more upper back work just because it gets really tight and I start to feel a little bit of neck ache. My traps feel a little bit lit up, a little bit tight, on fire. So I do a lot of T-spine work. And I also get into a few of those tissues like my traps and my neck with a barbell or with like a foam roller type setup just to kind of loosen it off. So that is the ramp warm up element of things. Okay. You're doing stuff that gets you ready for the session, but also gets you ready for, your life. Once you've done your ramp warm up, which is exactly as I just said there, 5 to 10 minutes. You can find an example of that online. If you can't find one and you want me to bloody point you in the direction, give us a shout and I'll do that. What I would do next, okay, 9 to 5 athlete. The thing that I feel like most people don't do in the fitness culture is train power, okay? I've spoke about this quite a lot actually, and I just think people need to do a little bit more of it. It doesn't need to be loads. It doesn't need to take up hours and hours and hours, but I do think 2 or 3 sets can do amazing things for your resilience from an injury standpoint, but also just to unlock that extra gear. Just when you're doing your sport or you're sprinting or you're jumping, just you've got an extra little bit of oomph, you can switch it on. So once you've done your ramp warm up, you go into some power work, okay? Pick 2 exercises, that's it. 2 exercises, do 2 to 3 sets of it. 5 reps. That's it. Just super. It could be medicine ball slams. It could be explosive press ups. It could be some pogo jumps. It could be some broad jumps, some vertical jumps, something along those lines. Okay. Tick that box, upper and lower body power. Do that on both days. Okay. In terms of your first day, this is how it's going to go. You're going to superset a squat and a horizontal press. So a horizontal press being a chest press, a bench press, something along those lines. Okay. You're going to push straight in front of you. 3 sets. That's it. Simple. You're then going to do a hinge, so an RDL, a hip thrust, something along those lines with a pull. Okay, same again, you're going to go for a horizontal pull, so you're thinking rowing there. So you're going to do some form of row. Could be a machine, a single arm row, an inverted row, whatever, don't mind. And then you're going to finish up with the last little block where you're going to do some individual work, okay? So some injury rehabilitation work, some injury reduction based work. It could be something specific to your sport. Okay, that might be a bit of grip, that might be rehabbing that little bit of knee pain that you need to keep on top of, that type of thing. Okay, that's your first session. Second session, you're basically going to do the other side of what we kind of think about from an S&C standpoint. So what movements we didn't hit in that session there, we're then going to hit on that second day. Okay, which is going to be some single leg work. Okay, so we're talking probably your split squats, your lunges, your reverse lunges, single leg press, something like that. Okay. You're going to pair that with a press. Okay. You're going to go overhead with this press. You're going to go vertical press. So your shoulder presses, your single arm overhead press, your barbell overhead press, your push press, whatever. Okay. It's up to you to decide how you choose those exercises. You're then going to do another single leg exercise. And in this one, you're going to think about, okay, I want to get either some single leg glute bridges in to hit the glutes. I want to get some single leg hamstring work in just to tick that box from a hamstring standpoint, or I'm going to get some calf work in. Okay. You're going to do one of those. And it's very, it's the thing that people don't do enough of, I think personally, it's the posterior chain style, so getting a little bit more glute, a little bit more hamstring. I'm not going to say that glutes are the problem for every single person out there. However, I am going to say that people probably don't do it enough. You're going to pair that single leg hamstring, glute or calf work with a vertical pull. Okay, so pulling from above. We're thinking lat pull down, chin up, pull up, something along those lines. You're then going to, repeat the block that we did in the previous session. So you've got your individual work there. Okay, it's your core, it's your rehab, it's that stuff. Okay, right there, that is your template. That is essentially what 90% of our programs will look like at Adapt if we're going to be doing a twice a week training program. When you start training 3 or 4 times a week, you have more flexibility because you have more training time. You can get a little bit cuter in how you actually organize your training week because you can tick different boxes at different times and you can work around competition. There it is. That is your training schedule. Okay. The second thing, right, that I feel is universal to actual human beings, but I feel like everyday athletes feel this a little bit more because they're probably they have the perception that they are doing a bad job because they're not motivated to train. Okay, sometimes you don't want to train, you feel like shit, you've had a long day at work. It is just the nature of it. Like, not every day is going to be a superhero day. In the Adapt HQ, our WhatsApp community, we speak about the 10-80-10 rule. Okay, I've spoke about this on the podcast before as well. 10% of your sessions are going to be utter dog shite. They're going to be awful. You're going to be a worm. You're not going to be doing much. You just turned up and you probably wish you didn't. Okay, 10% of those sessions is a natural kind of number for most people. 80% of your sessions will be all right. Okay, they're not amazing, they're not shit, they're just in the middle. You're getting work done, it's cool. But you're probably not putting a Facebook post saying that you just smashed a PB, okay? 10% of your session is going to be a superhero, okay? Where everything feels like a warm-up weight, you are incredible, you are a beast, you love it, okay? Not every day is going to be your best day, okay? That comes from a physical standpoint, but also a motivation standpoint. Sometimes you're just going to hate wanting to be there, and it's the last thing in the world you want to do. And there's a few things with motivation, okay? I'm going to say motivation doesn't come first, okay? You don't need to be motivated to do the shit that you do in your life because you're not going to be motivated every single time, okay? Sometimes you've just got to grab your bollocks a little bit and get shit done. I don't think Yeah, I don't think motivation is the first thing whatsoever. I think sometimes you have just got to get stuff done, and then sometimes you'll not get stuff done. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm not going to create blanket rules and say, this. But what I am going to say is breaking down the situation a little bit. Are you somebody that is more motivated to train first thing in the morning? Or are you somebody that is more motivated to train after you finish work? I'm a midday guy. Okay. Luckily, being self-employed and stuff, I've based my training around, I've based my work schedule a little bit more around my training because I know I like to train around lunchtime. So I get up early-ish. I do a few hours of work, I have some lunch, then I go to the gym. I come back, I do some work, and I probably work a little bit later because of that middle lunchtime period. But you need to figure out where you are best suited. Okay. Like if you're an early bird, get up and do it quick before the day actually take its toll on you. Okay. If you're somebody that naturally is a little bit more of a night owl and actually you want to get the day done so you can just enjoy yourself in your own time, do it after. There's a little bit of research around, okay, when does testosterone reach its highest amount in the day? Okay. Some people will say it's morning, sometimes it's evening. You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Just get it done. That is the most important thing. But don't be scared of using things like caffeine. Okay, it's definitely going to be a little bit more suited to the morning-based sessions. Get up, have a coffee. Get up, move around a little bit, and maybe take your caffeine tabs. Maybe if you're a pre-workout person, it's not something I always recommend to people. I'm not personally a fan for me because the crash is brutal for me. It feels like a hangover. I'm not even going to lie. It's awful. So I do want some sympathy there. Use some caffeine. Time your carbohydrates correctly so that you do have an extra little bit of a boost. Don't be afraid of using intra-workout carbohydrates, a sports drink, a few sweets, whatever that is, just to make sure you're kind of ticking that box. But here's the thing, going into that motivation thing of like, not every day is going to be your best day. There are certain things that you can do that is going to increase your motivation on a day-to-day basis, but also there's a statement of like, oh shit, I'm going to butcher this. It's a way up between doing what you want now versus what you want most. Okay. We're all training for a particular reason because we have a good end goal in mind. And sometimes you might let the day-to-day kind of get in the way of those things. Okay. I don't feel great now, so I'm going to sacrifice that long-term goal. Whereas if we can be super specific on what that goal is, short, medium, long-term goals, we do that with all our athletes, and we're thinking about, okay, what can we do that's going to break down that long-term goal into a medium and short term? What does that look like on a week-to-week basis? Okay, right, I need to hit my 3 sessions a week every single week. Okay, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Well, okay, right, I need to make sure I'm getting a decent amount of sleep. I need to get my 2 grams per kilo of body weight protein. I need to get my water in. I need to make sure that I'm taking some time for myself. It's thinking about the small hinges that swing the big doors in a performance. Okay. And when we do your short, medium and long-term goals, if we can set a performance related thing around that, I think it gives it a little bit more weight. You're aiming for a competition, you're aiming for a certain number on a jump metric, we're aiming for a certain time on a 5K, we're aiming to compete at your best every single week. I think the more specific we can be, the better, because then we know whether we're hitting that or not. And that's something you've got to do. If you're not currently do that, I honestly encourage you to get into that headspace of being like, what do I want? Write it down. Actually write it down. Don't just think it, because what's the statement? An idea that isn't written. Oh no, I'm going to fuck that up. A goal that isn't written down is just an idea. Okay. Same thing. It's get pen to paper here. Motivation piece. Okay. What gets you ticking? For some of the athletes that we've got, we have kind of a just do the warm up rule. Okay. We know most of the time you're not going to feel like going to the gym after a long day and it's been super stressful, but here's the rule. And you can agree on this at the start if you want, but I would recommend it. Go to the gym and just do the warm up. After you've done the warm up, if you want to piss off home and you don't want to do the session, that's fine. We know we've tried our hardest. It's cool. 99% of the time people have done the warm-up, they get some endorphins flowing, they feel a little bit better, a little bit looser, start feeling the music, they've looked at the session, they know what they're cracking on with, buzzing. they'll stick it out. Okay. Just using the warm-up rule. Okay. Next one is it's okay, right? It is absolutely okay. And it is a natural part of bloody being a human, of being an athlete, of being somebody that has a lot of shit going on. You will not feel buzzing to train every single day of the week. Sometimes you will miss a session. It's okay, right? And that comes from somebody that's seen professional athletes that also have those days when they say, you know what, I'm not fucking doing it today. But also I've seen people at the recreational level that are just like, you know what, right, I can turn this around and I can push things forward in a really positive way. We all have the ability to be both sides of that. You know, it's a continuum. You're not going to be always super buzzing, but you're not always going to be somebody that is in a bad stage. You will drift, you know, from left to right on that continuum quite often. So the other thing I wanted to speak about here is around accountability and support. Okay. And this is where I genuinely feel like having people around you that really push you to be, you know, the version that you set out to be is important. Okay. Having those people that are going to hold you accountable to the things that you want. And you do need that. Like even the most motivated and professional person in the world needs those people. And if you look at the people that are professional and doing amazing things for a living, they have people around them. Okay, they do. So we know that that's closer to the gold standard than just trying to do it alone. And that's probably the biggest difference I actually feel between, you know, professional athletes and people that are not, is the professional athlete gets a team around them. Okay. And this is where it's going to sound like a little bit shady, because this is where I'm speaking a little bit more about like what a good coach can do for you and what a good performance program can do for you. But it gives you that opportunity to ask the what if questions. Okay. And what I mean by what if questions is my phone is constantly going off with, you know, people, you know, that I coach saying, going to the gym, what do I do here? Okay. I've had a dead leg from rugby yesterday, but I've got lower body today. What do I do? It's those little things, those little barriers, those little roadblocks and those road bumps that we will come into contact with those fairly often. Okay. And you have a choice as an athlete to just, you know, make a judgment call and trust your gut and do what you think, or have somebody whose job it is to say, okay, I know the research. I know I've done this before. This is what you need to do. Okay. If you've got a dead leg, we're going to work through that with a little bit of mobility, a little bit of blood flow, see how you feel after the warm up. If the dead leg is still there and it feels pretty shite, we're going to leave the lower body stuff today and we'll pick that up tomorrow. Okay. So you can start to see how having a coach that's job is just to get you performing at your best is super important. So those what if questions, but that doesn't need to be a coach. That can be a training partner. Okay. That can be somebody that you go into the gym with, go into the field with. I think they're so powerful. Okay. If you're somebody that has a lot of questions and has a lot of doubts about their training program, a coach or a training partner can be somebody there for you. The next thing is thinking about auto-regulating. Okay. So this comes under the accountability and support side of things. So auto-regulation is essentially a term that means you regulate what you do on a day-to-day basis based on, you know, a few different things. So at Adapt, we use session rate of perceived exertion. Okay. So how hard was that session on a 1 to 10? Okay. Times by your training duration. Okay, so times by minutes. So what you'll end up with, okay, that session was an 8 out of 10 in terms of toughness, and it was 60 minutes long. That gives us a metric. So this is one of the tools we can use to start to auto-regulate, and training load management is a big part of that as well. It gives us an opportunity to look at what we're doing and adjust things on a day-to-day basis. So we use Train Heroic, which gives us that in a really kind of smart visual way. But we also use readiness questionnaires, and you could do this, you know, as an athlete yourself. How do you feel going into the gym? Okay. Are you super buzzing for it? Is your mood high? Is your energy high? Did you sleep well? Are you feeling sore today? You know, those types of things, just ask yourself and run through those. You can even write them down, put them in your phone. If you start to see that you've drifted from a 9 out of 10 in terms of mood, where you usually kind of find yourself, to a 3 out of 10, okay, right, we might want to start thinking about changing things a little bit. But this is where I feel having a coach there and a training partner and teammates around you is super important. And it gives you an opportunity to bounce ideas off of people. Okay, and you can be part of like training forums as forum. Not too sure. Somebody get back to me on that. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if I've ever actually heard it said in person. I've just seen it. But those types of things just give you an opportunity to check how you feel a little bit more, because how you feel is sometimes a lie. I've had those sessions where I've turned up to the gym and I feel like shit and I've pulled out PBs. I've been hungover, or I've just had a really rough day of work and I pull out a PB. Some days I go to the gym and I feel absolutely amazing, and it's some of the worst sessions I've ever had in my life because things don't click. So you just got to have these kind of conversations with yourself and figure that out. And I'm biased with this because it is my profession, but it's something that I'm hugely passionate about because I see the value in it. Get a coach, okay? Get a coach, get a program, get something written down that allows you to be very kind of supported in your efforts. Which then means this next bit, which is community. And community is a really interesting one. And community isn't what you say it is. Community is just what it is. And I heard this on a podcast not too long ago around gym culture and people trying to embody the gym culture of a different gym. And it just feels really forced and not really great. But it's the little things that click into place that I think are really cool and really interesting. So on a Monday evening, so I coach City of Sheffield Rowing Club, and we basically have a drop-in for some of the online athletes that come in around 4:00. We kind of train together. I train with them at the same time. And then it's really interesting because we're mooching around the gym. We're doing a bit, we're moving around, whatever it is. And it's so interesting when people come in, they start chatting, they're speaking about the day. They have like routines of where they get warm. They get routines of like what rack they go to, supporting each other through different things. The little look and the comment they give each other in between sets of like, for fuck's sake, Jordan's got me doing this again. It's like, it's those little steps towards it being like more cemented in a really nice environment. And you'll get this, like if you think about your sport, or the gym that you train at, the community feel is super interesting. Like, what is it? What is the reason that makes it a really welcoming place or makes it a hostile place? What is that thing? I definitely feel like proximity to a person is really interesting as well. I genuinely feel like the closer you are to other people, the easier it is to bond and form a relationship. And I saw a post about this the other day on Instagram, and it was so bang on. It's like, well, I'm gonna get it wrong, right? He basically said, what happened to sharing a barbell with another person? Okay, hey bro, can I work in with you? That classic thing. Okay, how many sets you got left? I've got 5 sets left. Oh, do you mind if I, jump in on your rest time? And it's such a weird thing, but sweating over the same barbell and just being connected and doing the same thing is so interesting, and it holds a lot of weight. It genuinely does. And I've got it at the minute. I've got a training partner, and it's working really well because we bench at the same time, we get shit done at the same time, we chat in between sets, we discuss training, we discuss life. I don't even know the bloke's name actually, but you know what? I can tell you what he does for a living. I can tell you what he wanted to do when he was younger, and I can tell you, what his weaknesses are when it comes to bench pressing. It's so interesting, that proximity. So yeah, I think that matters a lot. So I think finding a place where you feel really comfortable and you have a community feel in an online space, it's one of the things we're trying to work on with Adapt is trying to create a little bit more of a vibe where people feel comfortable chatting to each other and sharing PBs, sharing wins, just getting really comfortable with other people that are chasing the same goals. And that's why, like CrossFit has absolutely smashed it in a sense. They've managed to have competition elements. Okay, so they managed to see where you are at ranked against other people in the world and your gym or your box. So people love to be competitive. People love to work hard. People love to have benchmark workouts like the hero WODs of like Murph. Okay, was it a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 press-ups, 300 bodyweight squats, and a 1 mile run? They do it once a year, and I've done it, and it's fucking hard. But I really like it as a as a concept, because they've managed to build competition in there. They have a huge sense of community. Oh, you do CrossFit, I do CrossFit. And it's that running joke of like, how do you know if somebody does CrossFit? They would have told you within 3 seconds of meeting them. It's that type of thing. It's become very much a cult, but in a really positive way, because they're getting people active and they're getting people moving around, and they've cracked it. They've done a really, really good job. And we can rag on it or whatever. We can take the piss. I think it's cool to do that sometimes. However, there's so much we could probably learn about that, to be honest with you. So yeah, right. I went off on one there. There's some of my things with the everyday athlete. Okay, what is it that they struggle with, and what are some of the things that we can get them better at? So I've covered scheduling. Okay, scheduling is going to be a big one. It's just knowing what to do at what time, and this is something. They're probably the most 3 common things that I feel like people would benefit from most: having a locked-in schedule, figuring out their motivation, system and what actually makes them tick, and then dialing into that accountability and support network that they have around them. Those are going to be the things that can really kind of push you forward and make sure you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So it was a short-ish and sweet-ish one. Well, it's 30 minutes, not too bad for me. But this was just something I was thinking about on the way home from the gym today. And I just thought, you know what, let's get on there, let's do it. So yeah, hopefully you found some value in that. It might not please everybody, but I definitely feel like those are some of the things that hopefully, will help people out there. So yeah, going back to my point at the beginning of the podcast, if you haven't signed up to the Adapt podcast the Adapt newsletter, helps if I get the title right. Go sign up to it. The link is in the description. It'll take you literally 3 seconds to plonk your email in there, and then you get to receive value a couple of times a week where I just chat shit, but also give you a load of, informative training chat. Okay. So, right. That is me done for the day. I'm going to do a little bit of programming. I'm also going to go into the garage. I've got a little bit of a garage project going on, making the gym, which is sick. It's coming together. I'm doing a lot of painting. I also drilled through a wall that shouldn't have been drilled through. So I went through into Barry's garage, which is gutting, but it is the nature of the beast when, somebody trusts me with a drill when I should not have one. Anyway, right. I will chat to you all soon. Let me know if you enjoyed the podcast. Share it with somebody who you feel like may benefit as well. That's super important to us. Thank you very much.